So we are open up to the next clean page in our math notebooks to take notes. Today, at the top, our title is 1.6 round decimals, and today's date of 10/22/20. So when it says round, it's not like we're writing our decimal numbers to make a round shape. We are actually rounding our decimal numbers. So I know some of you, when you hear rounding, you have like an internal groan. You're like, oh, Miss E, I don't like rounding numbers. I'm not good at it. We're practicing today. It's just like rounding whole numbers, except we have a few more places that we're looking at. So I would like everyone to put a thumbs up on their desk when they have their title and today's date at the top. Awesome. So I will let you know, there's a little saying that we're going to be writing down today to help us remember how to round numbers. You may have heard it before. I'm not sure how you may have done it with Mrs. Wells, but we have a little saying we'll be writing down in our notebooks. All right, are we ready to move on? Okay. So first things first, we're going right into an example. We need to round 237 to the nearest tens place. So our example, you'll notice, is not a decimal. That's because I want us to have an example that's just whole numbers so that we can just focus on the little saying or the steps. So round 237 to the nearest tens place. So guys, what we're going to do is we're going to go step by step through this kind of saying and step by step through rounding. Then we're going to look at it all together, the whole saying together, okay? So when we need to round, the first thing we need to do is mark the place we are rounding. So you can see I underlined the 3 in pink. So first step, mark your place. I underlined the 3 in pink because that's the number in the tens place. And I know you can see a little bit of orange there. That's for the next step, so don't copy that yet. So mark your place. So you write 237 and you underline the place you're rounding to. So that 3. So if we had a decimal number and it said round to the nearest hundredths, then we would be underlining the hundredths place, whatever digit is in the hundredths place. All right, we ready to move on to the next part? All right. So mark your place, look next door. So notice I still have the 3 underlined, but instead now what I'm doing, do you guys see how there is a little arrow going from the 3 to the right? And on the right is our 7. And around the 7, I drew a rectangle. And do you see how there's a little dot right there? Yeah? It's because we're looking next door. So it's like a little door, okay? So look next door to the right. So I want you drawing everything that I did. And keep the line underneath the 3. Yes? Can we draw that little door over there? Don't draw that yet. No. Just the orange step. That's for the next one as well. Thank you for asking. When it's all together, you'll see. But we're just going step by step. So first mark your place. Then look next door. So you should be writing exactly what you did for the first step, but then adding that arrow from the 3 over to the 7, putting a box around the 7, and a little dot to the right of it to represent a doorknob. There's a door. A few people finishing this one up. So you should be in your seat, please. All right, we ready for the next one? Okay. So mark your place, look next door. 5 or greater, add 1 more. So we're looking next door, is 7 5 or greater? Yes. So we are adding one more to our 3. So notice I still have the 3 underlined, but this time I put one cross through it, put a little arrow up, and I made it a 4. Yeah, don't add this yet. That's for the next step too. So mark your place, look next door, 5 or greater, add one more. I know, I love it. Yes. She kind of did this. I thought she may have. I see a few people finishing up this set. And then I think I'm going to unveil the last 2 because they kind of go together. I see a few people finishing up this one. All right, we ready to move on? Okay. Oh, almost? All right. So then we have numbers in front stay the same. So you can see that's written in blue. So the number in front is the 2. So I circled it in blue. That's staying the same. Numbers behind, zeros, their name. So they become zeros. So you can see I crossed off, this is written in purple. So I crossed off the 7 in purple and added a 0 to the end. Or I made it a 0. So then our final number we're left with then is 240. Guys, you're doing great so far. So if I say this all together, mark your place, look next door. 5 or greater, add one more. Numbers in front stay the same. Numbers behind, zeros, their name. So we can use these steps no matter if we are rounding whole numbers or decimal numbers. It all just has to do with knowing what place you are rounding to, looking next door, and knowing what to do once you look next door. Are we ready to move on, 5th grade? Okay, so now that we have these steps written down, we are going to use them with a decimal number. So I have an example. Yeah, yep. So example, round to the tenths. I'm going to scoot this up. So round to the tenths. So now we're going to look at this with a decimal number. It's honestly, you guys, rounding decimals is just like rounding whole numbers. It's just we have more places to look at, or that we could be rounding to. Let's say it that way. All right, so example, round to the tenths. Now, I just went ahead and wrote all this down. So, yes. Okay, so what I did here, I'm going to put my hand on here because it seems to get clearer with my hands in it. So the number I rounded was 38 and 25 hundredths. And so we underline the place that we are rounding, so the 10th place, and then we are looking next door to the 5. Do you see how I put a door around the 5? So, according to our rhyme, if it's 5 or greater, then I add one more. So what I did is with the 2, I needed to add one more. And the numbers in front stay the same, numbers behind 0 is their name. So then, if I follow those steps, I wind up with 38 and 3/10. So put a thumbs up on your desk when you have this written down. And then we're going to get into some examples where you guys are actually practicing this. Oh, I should add. So that 5 then becomes a 0. Sorry, I forgot to add that 0. The 5 is now a 0. Thumbs up on your desk when you have this written down. So once we get this down, we have, let's see. Oh, okay. I want to say I lied. I forgot. I have one more example you're going to write down like this, only because it's a little trickier, and you might look at it, and you might want to overthink it. So we're going to write down another example first, then you guys will have actual practice problems. Yes, Jack? Exactly. The reason why I want us practicing is, for some reason, when we're practicing rounding decimals, sometimes you look at the number and that decimal just throws you off. I'm like, oh my gosh, well, what do I do? So I want us used to seeing the numbers with the decimal and knowing it's just like rounding whole numbers. And that's why we're going to do this next example just like this one, because you're going to be asked to round to the nearest whole number, and you might think, oh my gosh, how do I do that? And it's much simpler than you think. Yeah. Yes. So after the next example, then there will be some by yourself. Yes, Mackenzie. That's probably more like probably high school, middle school, high school. Yep. Yeah. Allison? Yes. It's going to be the same. Exactly. Cool. All right, so ready to rock? All right, next one. You guys ready? Voices up. All right. So the next one, I want you to write down, because you might see some like this on your homework. I want to explain this. So if you ever see round to the nearest whole number and you're given a decimal, what that means is basically you're always rounding to the nearest ones place, that nearest whole number. Because in order for it to be a whole number, nothing can be to the right of the decimal. So that means we're rounding to the place just to the left of the decimal. So whenever you see or hear round to the nearest whole number, that means, that means round to the nearest ones place. So in 19 and 71 hundredths, our 9 is in the ones place. So we're rounding to the 9, where the 9 is. So I mark my place. I look next door. That's a 7. It's 5 or more. So I'm going to add 1 to my 9. Now, when I add 1 to my 9, that means my 19 is becoming a 20. Everything to the numbers in front stay the same, and numbers behind zeros their name. So the only reason why that 9 became a 0 is because if we add 1 to 9, then we have to go into the next place value, which would be the tens place, 20. Yes, Richie?
Well, he looked next door. It's 1, but 1's not greater than 5.
No. So we're rounding to the nearest whole number. So that would be our ones place, which our 9 is in. Next door is the 7. right? Yep, that's okay. That's totally okay. Okay, we're looking next door to the 7, which is in the 10th place. That's 5 or more, so I'm adding 1 to my 9. But since we can't go up more than 9 in the ones place, then that kicks us to 20 as our whole number. What was that, Will? Yep, exactly. So numbers behind zeros their name. Exactly, they become zeros. You're totally right. Okay, you're all smart, frankly. Okay, so now we're going to get into some practice problems where you are going to round some numbers to the nearest hundredths place. So let's get this part written on your notebook, or in your notebook on your page. Yep, now we're actually doing practice. Yeah, it's good to have examples. Round to the nearest hundredths. Ready to rock? Are we ready to write down our practice problems? Okay, get that written down. Good. And don't forget hundredths. It's just like 100 with THS written at the end of it. So hundredths. All right. One more person finishing up their notes. 2 more people. Awesome. And awesome. Now are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So, practice. Round to the nearest hundredths. We have 3 numbers. So our first, 34 and 731 thousandths. Number 2, 7 and 158 thousandths. Then we have number 3, 6 and 398 thousandths. So what you are doing for these, you do not necessarily need to draw out the door and the arrow, but I do think it is helpful to underline the place you are rounding to. So I want you to get into the habit of when you are looking at your number, you are underlining the place that you are rounding to. So in this case, the hundredths place. So for each one, I want you to at least underline the digit in the hundredths place, since that is what you are rounding to. You don't necessarily have to draw out the other steps unless you want to. If that helps you, I want you to do it. And use that saying, mark your place, look next door, 5 or greater, add 1 more. Numbers in front stay the same. Numbers behind, zeros, their name. Once you have rounded these 3 problems to the nearest hundredths, then I want a thumbs up on your desk or for you to be doing something quietly. Guess what? Yep, so beneath you can write what you round it to. Nice, yeah. Write it beneath what it rounds to. Go ahead.
Since it's like 9 and 8, that would change to 0, but wouldn't that change to 0 too?
I did give you a little trickier one on number 3, and I realized that.
Four.
This one? So where are we looking at? We're looking next door. One. So then what was it? We have to add 1 to the 3? No. It stays Voices should be off. This is the work time.
So add one more. So this is basically 10. So now it turns to 0. And then do 3 to 1, go to the 3, and then add the 1. Oh, so we could add 1 to 0.
Are we ready to look at our practice problems? Yeah. All right, so 5th grade, let's look at these together. Let's see, I'll use a light purple today. Okay, so we were supposed to round to the nearest hundredth place, and I asked you, please put your books away, 5th grade. Please put your books away. Awesome. And I asked you, or I said, you did not need to draw out all the steps. Jack L, you should be at your desk. But I wanted you to at least underline the place you were rounding to, okay? So if we're looking at number 1 and we're rounding to the nearest hundredth place, show me on your hand which digit in this number is in the hundredth place. Which digit is in the hundredth place? Show me on your hand. Which digit? 3. Is it the first 3 or the second 3? The second one, yes, because tenths, hundredths. So I'm going to underline that. So I marked my place. Now I'm going to look next door. Is the number next door 5 or greater? No, it's a 1. 1 is less than 5. So do I need to add 1 to my 3? No, I don't. It stays the same. So whenever your number next door is not 5 or greater, it just stays the same. So then numbers in front stay the same. So that'd be 34.7. And then we said our 3 stays the same. Numbers behind zeros their names. So my 1 becomes a 0. How do we feel on number 1? How do we feel on number 1? How do we feel? Awesome. Okay. All right, hands down. Number 2, same thing. Our number in the hundredths place is the 5. So I marked my place. I look next door. Is 8 greater than 5? Yes. So I need to add 1 to my 5. So that becomes a 6. And then numbers in front stay the same. So all the numbers in the front of it stay the same. Numbers behind, zeros their name. So that 8 becomes a 0. How do we feel about number 2? How do we feel about number 2? Okay. All right. Now we get to number 3. So number 3, we need to, again, round to the nearest hundredths. My 9 is in the hundredths place. So mark my place, look next door. What's next door? 8. Is that 5 or greater? So I need to add 1. Okay, add 1. Okay, 9 plus 1 is 10. Huh. Okay, so this is why I wanted you guys to write down the second example up here, because whenever you're rounding to a place that is a 9 and you need to add 1 more, we obviously can't go 3 and then write a 10 like 3, 1, 0, 8. That doesn't work. What happens is it becomes a 10. So you could think of this as 39, right? And if we were to add 31 to 39, it would become 40. So that plus 1 gets bumped to the next place value. So that 3 is what we're actually adding the 1 to. Our 9 then becomes a 0. So 39 becomes 40 essentially. Everything before stays the same. Numbers behind, 0 is their name. How did we feel on number 3? How do we feel on number 3? Okay. Emmy, do you understand what we did though? Okay. All right. So whenever you're rounding to a place that has a 9 and you need to add 1 more, that plus 1 gets bumped to the place value on its left. If there is no place value there, so guys, let's say if it was like 9.5 and you needed to round to the nearest whole number, then you add 1 to the left of it. Okay. Overall, actually, let's do an anonymous vote. Close your eyes, put your heads down. Close your eyes, put your heads down. I want you to think about how you're feeling when it comes to rounding decimal numbers. Decimal numbers. Go ahead, show me on your hands 1 through 5. How are you feeling about rounding decimal numbers? Philip, I can see your eyes. Close them. How are we feeling? 1 through 5. Frankie, show me 1 through 5. All right. Hands down. Hands down. You can open your eyes. I'm going to let you know what your homework is for tonight. So, take out your math workbook. Open up to page 39. Ready to rock? You should be opening in your workbook to page 39. Waiting for voices to be off. All right, so homework tonight, page 39. You are circling number 4, number 5, number 11, number 12, and number 20. I will say that again one more time. Page 39. You are circling number 4, number 5, number 11, number 12, and number 20. I will give you guys some work time and turn on work music. What should our volume level be during work time?
0.
It should be a 0. If you have a question, you can come over and ask me. Bring your workbook over and we can talk it through. Capiche? All right. Nice job, 5th grade. Go ahead, get started on your homework.